The throne room of Prime was silent. Thousands of candles burned along the walls, casting long shadows across the stone floor. King sat on his throne, his four eyes fixed on the messenger who knelt before him. The messenger was shaking. His scales had turned pale with fear. "Say it again," the king said. His voice was calm, but everyone in the room knew that calm was dangerous. "The Seventh Fleet is gone, my king, all 40 ships. They ambushed them in the Ember Nebula. There were no survivors." King did not move. He had ruled the empire for 300 cycles. He had seen wars begin and end. He had buried 2 sons who fell in battle. He had watched his queen die in his arms, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. "And my daughter?" he asked. The messenger lowered his head to the floor. Princess commanded from the front as always. Her ship was the first to fall. "We found debris, my king, nothing more." The silence that followed was terrible. The advisors and generals standing along the walls did not dare to breathe. They watched their king, waiting for his reaction. Would he rage? Would he weep? Would he order the immediate destruction of every world? King did none of these things. He simply sat there, staring at nothing, as if his soul had left his body. His youngest, his fierce, stubborn, brilliant daughter. She had her mother's eyes and her father's temper. She had fought him on everything since she was old enough to speak. She had demanded to join the military when tradition said princesses should stay in the palace. She had earned her rank through skill, not blood. She had made him proud in ways he had never told her. And now she was gone. "Leave me," the king said quietly. The court emptied in moments. Only Admiral N remained, standing a respectful distance from the throne. He had served the king for over 100 cycles. He had been there when the queen died. He knew when to speak and when to stay silent. "She was the best of us," the king said finally. "Better than her brothers, better than me. She would have been a great queen." "She was a great warrior," N agreed. "The soldiers loved her. She led from the front, never from behind. They must have known who she was. They targeted her specifically." "Then they will pay." The king's hands gripped the arms of his throne. "Every world will burn. Every ship will be destroyed. They took my daughter. I will take everything from them." N nodded slowly. "I will prepare the full fleet for war." The king said nothing more. He simply stared ahead, lost in memories of a little girl who used to climb onto his lap and ask him to tell her stories of ancient battles. Far across the galaxy, in the cold darkness of space near a small, forgotten moon, a damaged escape pod drifted slowly through the void. Its power was nearly gone. Its emergency beacon had been destroyed in the explosion that had torn the Seventh Fleet apart. Inside, Princess lay unconscious on the metal floor. She was alive, but barely. A deep wound ran across her side where a piece of her own ship had cut through her armor. Her blood, dark violet in color, had pooled beneath her. Her breathing was shallow and uneven. Without help, she would die within hours. The escape pod had been programmed to find the nearest habitable world. It had done its job, locking onto the small moon designated LV-447 in old human star charts. They did not know this moon existed. It was too small, too remote, too unimportant for anyone to notice. But someone did live there. The pod entered the atmosphere with a terrible screech. Fire burned along its sides as it fell through the sky. Did not wake. She was too far gone, too close to death to feel anything. The pod crashed in a dense jungle, tearing through trees and vines before coming to rest in a crater of mud and broken wood. Steam rose from its scorched metal hull. Birds that were not quite birds screamed and flew away. Then everything was quiet. Inside the pod opened her eyes for just a moment. She saw smoke. She saw the cracked glass of the viewport. She tried to move, but her body would not obey her. The pain was too much. Then she saw something through the smoke. A figure. A creature walking toward the pod. It was not. It was something she had never seen in person before, only in intelligence reports and old war records. It was a human. The creature had no scales. Its skin was soft and pale. It had only two eyes, small and round. It walked on two legs but it was shorter and less elegant. It wore strange clothes in green and brown colors, and it carried a primitive weapon in its hands. Tried to reach for her own weapon, but her arm would not move. She was helpless. She was dying, and this human was coming closer. Her people had heard stories about humans. They were a young species, barely 1,000 years into space travel. They were violent, unpredictable, and refused to join any galactic alliance. The Empire had ignored them mostly, considering them too primitive to be a threat or an ally. Now one of them stood over her, looking down through the cracked viewport. Expected many things. She expected the human to kill her, or to capture her, or to simply walk away and leave her to die. These were the logical choices. She was an enemy. She was a member of a species that had never shown humans any respect. But the human did something unexpected. He put away his weapon. He knelt beside the pod. He began to search for a way to open it. Wanted to tell him to stop. She wanted to warn him that she was dangerous, that she was royalty, that he should fear her. But no words would come out. Her vision was growing dark around the edges. The last thing she saw before she lost consciousness was the human's face. He looked worried. He looked like he was trying to save her life. She did not understand. Then the darkness took her, and Princess of the Empire knew nothing more. On Prime, a king mourned his daughter and planned a war of revenge. On a forgotten moon, a human soldier carried an unconscious alien princess through the jungle, not knowing who she was or why he had chosen to save her. He only knew that she was dying, and he could not let that happen. It was not in his nature to walk away. Danny Cole had been alone on LV-447 for 6 months. His unit had been sent to the moon as part of a forward reconnaissance mission, watching for enemy movement in this remote sector of space. 3 months ago, his partner had been evacuated due to illness. The replacement never came. So Danny waited, watching the skis, sending his reports and trying not to go crazy from the loneliness. He had never expected to find an alien princess in a crashed pod. The small outpost was hidden in a cave system near a waterfall. Danny had set up his equipment there, along with a basic medical station and enough supplies to last another year. It was not comfortable, but it was safe. He laid the alien on his cot and looked at her wounds. The cut on her side was deep and ugly. Her blood was a strange violet color, and he had no idea if human medicine would work on her body. But he had to try something. He cleaned the wound with water and antiseptic. The alien did not wake, which worried him. He stitched the cut closed using the same technique he had learned in field medic training. He wrapped bandages around her torso and covered her with a blanket. Then he sat down across the room and waited. For 3 days, the alien did not move. Danny checked her breathing every few hours. He changed her bandages. He tried to drip water into her mouth. He talked to her sometimes, even though he knew she could not hear him. "I don't know if you understand anything I'm saying," he said on the second night, "but I'm not going to let you die. That's not how I was raised. My mom always said that good people help others, even when it's hard, even when it's scary, so that's what I'm doing." He laughed at himself. "You're probably going to wake up and try to kill me. That's how these things usually go in the movies, but I'll take that chance." On the third morning, the alien opened her eyes. Woke slowly, her mind foggy and confused. She did not know where she was. She remembered the battle, the explosion, the escape pod. She remembered falling through fire. And she remembered a face, a strange, soft face with small eyes looking down at her. She sat up too quickly and felt pain explode through her side. She gasped and fell back onto the cot. "Easy, easy," a voice said. "You'll tear your stitches." She turned her head and saw the human. He was sitting on a rock across the small cave, holding a cup of something that steamed. He did not look threatening. He looked tired. "Where am I?" demanded. Her voice was weak, but she tried to make it sound strong. "You're in my home," the human said. "Well, my temporary home, a cave on a moon called LV-447. Your pod crashed about 2 kilometers from here. I carried you back." "Why?" The human tilted his head. "Why what? Why did you save me? Why did you not leave me to die? Why did you not kill me?" The human took a sip from his cup. He seemed to think about her question for a moment. Then he shrugged. "Because you needed help." Stared at him. She did not understand this answer. Among her people, mercy was given only for a reason. You saved an enemy if they had valuable information. You spared a life if it served your political goals. You showed kindness only when kindness benefited you. But this human seemed to have no goal. He had simply seen her dying and decided to help. "You are human," she said. "That's right, Sergeant Danny Cole, Earth Colonial Marines. Nice to meet you." "I am. I figured that out from the scales and the 4 eyes. Never seen one of your people in person before, but we have files." He paused. "You're a long way from home." Said nothing. She looked around the cave, taking in the primitive equipment, the small cooking fire, the stacks of supplies. This human lived like an animal. His technology was basic, his shelter was crude, and he seemed completely unbothered by any of it. "You should not have saved me," she said finally. "My people and yours are not friends. We do not trade with humans. We do not speak to humans. We consider your species to be—" She paused, searching for a polite word. "Primitive," Danny offered. "Violent, uncivilized. Yeah, I've heard the talk. The galaxy doesn't think much of us." "And yet you saved me anyway." "Sure did." He stood up and walked over to her, holding out the cup. "This is soup. It's made from local plants and some protein powder. I don't know if your body can handle human food, but you need to eat something." Looked at the cup suspiciously. Then she looked at the human's face. He seemed genuine. He seemed kind. It made no sense. She took the cup and drank. The soup was strange but not unpleasant. Her stomach accepted it without complaint. "Thank you," she said quietly. The words felt strange in her mouth. Royalty did not thank lower species. "You're welcome." Danny sat back down on his rock. "So you want to tell me who you are? That armor you were wearing looked pretty fancy. Important person." Considered lying. She could say she was a common soldier, nobody special, but something about this human made her want to tell the truth. "I am Princess, daughter of King, heir to the Empire." Danny's eyebrows went up. "A princess? Wow, I've never met royalty before," he grinned. "Should I bow?" "You are making fun of me." "A little bit, yeah." He leaned forward. "Look, princess, I don't care about your title. Right now, you're a wounded person in my care. That's all that matters. Once you're healed up, we can figure out how to get you home. Until then, you're stuck with me." Studied him, this human was strange. He was not afraid of her. He did not seem impressed by her rank. He treated her like she was just another person. No one had ever treated her that way before. "You are a very unusual creature, Sergeant Danny Cole," she said. Danny smiled. "I get that a lot." Outside the cave, night was falling. Strange insects began to sing in the jungle. Somewhere in the distance, a predator screamed. Looked at the human who had saved her life for no reason at all, and she felt something she could not name. For the first time since the battle, she thought she might survive. They found them on the 5th day. Danny was outside the cave collecting water from the stream when he heard the sound. A low humming coming from the sky. He looked up and saw a small ship moving slowly over the jungle, scanning the ground with a beam of blue light. He ran back to the cave. "We have company," he said, grabbing his rifle and his backpack. "Time to go." Was sitting up now, her wound healing faster than Danny had expected. She looked at him with alarm. "Who?" "Not human, the ship is too advanced. my guess is. The color drained from his face. They followed me. They are hunting for survivors. Then we can't stay here. Can you walk? Stood, she was unsteady, but she was strong. I can walk. They left the cave and moved deeper into the jungle. Danny led the way, using his knowledge of the terrain to find paths that would hide them from the scanners above. Followed, her body screaming with pain but her will refusing to stop. For 3 weeks they ran. The sent ground teams to search for them. Danny watched them from hidden positions in the trees. They were tall, thin creatures with gray skin and long claws. They moved in groups of 4, carrying weapons that could burn through metal. They were efficient hunters. But Danny had grown up hunting in the forests of New Montana. He knew how to move without making sound. He knew how to hide his trail. He knew how to survive. He taught what he knew. She learned quickly. She was a warrior, after all, even if her battles had always been fought in space. She adapted to this new kind of war. They slept in shifts. They ate whatever Danny could catch or find. They drank from streams and collected rainwater. It was a hard life, harder than anything had experienced before. "How do you do this?" she asked one night, as they huddled in a hollow beneath a fallen tree. "How do you survive like this with nothing?" Danny shrugged. "Humans are good at surviving, it's kind of our thing. Our home planet tried to kill us for thousands of years. Predators, diseases weather each other. We survived all of it. Now we're out here in space, and it's the same game with different rules. My people would never live like this. We would consider it beneath us." "Maybe that's why you need better escape pods," Danny said with a grin. Almost smiled, almost. On the 12th day, they found their camp. Danny woke to the sound of footsteps and saw 4 of them approaching through the darkness. He grabbed his rifle and pushed behind a rock. "Stay down," he whispered. He fired before they could react. The first fell. The second turned to fire back, but Danny was already moving, rolling to a new position. He shot the second one, then the third. The fourth ran at him with its claws extended. Danny met it head-on. They crashed together in the mud, fighting with fists and elbows. They was stronger, but Danny was faster. He got his knife free and drove it into the creature's throat. Then it was over. 4 bodies lay in the mud. Danny stood over them, breathing hard, covered in mud and alien blood. Stared at him. "You killed 4 soldiers by yourself." "They were going to kill us." Danny wiped his knife clean. "I didn't give them the chance. Our warriors trained for decades to fight They are considered the most dangerous enemy in our sector. You killed 4 of them with a primitive weapon." Danny looked at her. "Princess, where I come from, we don't have fancy energy weapons or advanced armor. We have guns and knives in our bare hands. We make do with what we have." He held out his hand to help her up. "Now let's move. More will come." They kept moving. Days blurred together. His wound healed slowly. Danny caught a fever from a poisonous plant and spent 2 days shivering and delirious while watched over him. When he recovered, they kept going. On the 18th day, a patrol found them near a river. Danny saw them too late. The lead soldier fired, and the plasma bolt hit Danny in the shoulder. He fell. The pain was incredible, like fire burning through his flesh. He could smell his own skin cooking. Screamed something in her own language and grabbed Danny's rifle. She had never fired a human weapon before, but she figured it out fast. She shot 2 of them before the others retreated. Then she ran to Danny's side. "You are hurt," she said, her voice shaking. "You are badly hurt." Danny looked at his shoulder. The wound was ugly, black and red, still smoking. He gritted his teeth. "I need to cauterize it," he said. "Hand me my knife and start a fire." "What?" "I'm going to burn the wound closed. It's the only way to stop the bleeding." Watched in horror as Danny heated the blade of his knife in the fire. When it glowed red, he pressed it against his own shoulder. He screamed through clenched teeth. The smell of burning flesh filled the air. Then it was done. Danny sat there, pale and sweating but alive. You burned yourself, said. You burned your own flesh. Had to, Danny got to his feet, swaying slightly. Let's keep moving. You need to rest. I'll rest when we're safe. He started walking. Come on, princess. Followed him, her mind struggling to understand what she had just seen. This human had taken a wound that would have killed most soldiers. He had treated it himself with fire and pain. And then he had simply continued walking. Why do you not give up? She asked. Danny glanced back at her. Because giving up means dying, and I'm not ready to die. But how do you keep going? How do you find the strength? Danny thought about it. I don't know, it's just what we do. Humans have always been like this. We fall down, we get back up. We lose, we try again. We face impossible odds and we fight anyway. He shrugged with his good shoulder. Maybe we're too stupid to know when to quit. Walked beside him in silence. She was beginning to understand something about humans. They were not strong because they were powerful. They were strong because they simply refused to stop. It was the most terrifying and beautiful thing she had ever seen. By the 21st day, they had crossed half the moon. They had fought 6 patrols. Danny had 2 more wounds and had 1. They were exhausted, hungry, and running out of options. But they were still alive. And Danny Cole was still not ready to give up. On the 23rd day, Danny found something that changed everything. They had been tracking a patrol for 2 days, staying far enough behind to avoid detection. When the patrol stopped to make camp, Danny made a decision. I'm going to take their ship, he said. Looked at him like he was insane. There are 6 of them. You are wounded. Your shoulder is barely healed. I know, Danny checked his rifle. He had 12 rounds left. But we can't stay on this moon forever. Eventually they'll find us. Our only chance is to get off this rock. This is suicide. Maybe, Danny smiled at her, but I've done crazier things. He attacked at dawn when they were least alert. He killed 3 of them before they knew what was happening. The other 3 fought back, but Danny moved through them like a ghost. He used every trick he had learned in his years as a soldier. He used the terrain. He used surprise. He used his enemies' confusion against them. When it was over, 6 lay dead, and Danny stood beside their scout ship, bleeding from a new wound on his leg but still standing. Ran to his side. You are impossible, she said. I get that a lot. Danny limped toward the ship. Help me get inside. Let's see if I can figure out how to fly this thing. The ship was advanced, but Danny was good with machines. He had spent years working on engines and systems. He studied the controls, made guesses, pressed buttons. After 2 hours, he managed to get the ship into the air. It's not pretty, he said as the ship rose above the jungle, but it works. Watched the moon grow smaller below them. She had never been so happy to leave a planet behind. The journey to space would take 12 days. The ship was fast, but the distance was vast. Danny set the autopilot and finally allowed himself to rest. During those 12 days, something changed between them. They talked, really talked for the first time. Danny told about Earth, about his home colony of New Montana. He described the mountains and the forests, the small town where he grew up. He told her about his mother who worked as a teacher, his father who had died in a mining accident when Danny was 15, his 2 younger sisters who he sent money to every month. You love your family, said. More than anything. Danny showed her a small photograph he kept in his pocket, 3 smiling women standing in front of a wooden house. This is why I keep fighting. This is why I don't give up, because I want to see them again. Had never met a soldier who carried pictures of his family. Warriors were taught to leave emotion behind. Attachment was weakness, but Danny carried his love with him like armor. Tell me about your family, Danny said. Was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke about her father, the great king, how he had ruled for 300 cycles, how he had won every war, defeated every enemy, how he was feared and respected across the galaxy. He sounds impressive, Danny said. He is, but he is also distant, cold. He loved my mother deeply, and when she died, something inside him died too. He has never been the same. And you looked out at the stars. I have always wanted to please him, to make him proud. I joined the military because I thought that would earn his respect. I fought in battles, I led fleets, I risked my life again and again. But he never told me he was proud, not once. Danny was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Parents are complicated. Sometimes they love you but don't know how to show it. Doesn't mean the love isn't there." Looked at him. "You are surprisingly wise for a primitive species." Danny laughed. "Thanks, I think." They talked about other things too. About human history with all its wars and struggles and triumphs. About culture with its ancient traditions and strict hierarchies. About music and food and dreams. About what they wanted from life. Had never had a conversation like this before. Did not share feelings or discuss personal matters with strangers. But Danny was not a stranger anymore. He was something else. Something she did not have a word for. A friend. On the 8th day, Danny asked her something that surprised her. "What happens when we get to your space, to your people?" Frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what happens to me? I'm human. Your empire doesn't exactly welcome my kind. Are they going to throw me in prison, execute me?" Had not thought about this. She had been so focused on getting home that she had not considered what would happen to Danny once they arrived. "I will not let them harm you," she said firmly. "You saved my life. You protected me. I owe you a debt that can never be repaid." "Debts are nice, but they don't stop armies." "Then I will stop them myself." Met his eyes. "You are under my protection, Danny Cole. Anyone who tries to hurt you will answer to me." Danny smiled. "You know, for a scary alien princess, you're pretty okay. And you, for a primitive human, are surprisingly adequate." They both laughed. It felt good to laugh. On the 12th day, they reached the edge of space. Almost immediately, they were surrounded by patrol ships. A dozen weapons locked onto them. A voice came over the radio, demanding identification. Took the communicator. She spoke in her own language, words that Danny could not understand, but he could hear the authority in her voice, the power. The response was immediate. The patrol ships fell back. One of them moved alongside, escorting them rather than threatening them. "What did you say?" Danny asked. "I told them who I am." His face was unreadable. "The word is spreading now. By the time we reach the capital, the entire empire will know that Princess lives." She looked at Danny. "And they will know that a human brought me home." Danny leaned back in his seat. "Well, this should be interesting." The grew larger in the viewport. It was a beautiful planet, blue and green, covered with massive cities and ancient forests. Watched it approach with mixed feelings. She was home. She had survived the impossible. But nothing would ever be the same. Because she had not come back alone. She had brought a human with her. And that human had taught her things that no school could ever teach. She had learned that strength is not about power. It is about refusing to give up. It is about helping others, even when there is nothing to gain. It is about being kind in a universe that is often cruel. These were human lessons. And would never forget them. King stood in the royal landing bay, surrounded by his generals and advisors. He had not slept in days. When the message came that his daughter was alive, he had not believed it. He could not allow himself to hope. He had buried that hope weeks ago, along with his heart. But now a ship was descending from the sky. A ship which made no sense. And inside that ship, according to every report, was his daughter. The ship landed with a soft hiss. Steam rose from its engines. The entire court held its breath. The ramp lowered. And there she was. Walked down the ramp slowly, her head held high. She was thin and tired. Her armor was damaged and dirty. There were new scars on her arms and face, but she was alive. She was real. King felt his heart stop. Then it started again, beating faster than it had in centuries. But was not alone. Behind her came a strange creature. It was short and soft, with pale skin and no scales. It wore a torn uniform in green and brown colors. Its arm was in a sling, and it walked with a slight limp. It had only two small eyes, and they were watching everything with careful attention. A human. The court erupted in whispers. Some reached for their weapons. Humans were not allowed on Prime. Humans were barely considered civilized. What was this creature doing beside the princess? Raised her hand, and the whispers stopped. "This human saved my life," she said, her voice carrying across the landing bay. "His name is Danny Cole. He is a soldier from a colony world called New Montana. When my escape pod crashed, he found me dying and chose to save me. He fought, though, with primitive weapons. He was wounded many times protecting me. He asked for nothing in return." She walked forward toward her father. "Without him, I would be dead in the Ember Nebula. Everything I am, everything I will become, I owe to this human." King looked at his daughter. Then he looked at the human. The creature stood there quietly, not speaking, not cowering. It met the king's 4 eyes with its 2, and it did not look away. "Why?" the king asked. His voice was deep and powerful, a voice that had commanded armies and ended wars. "Why did you save her?" Danny Cole thought about the question. He had been asked it many times now. He had given different answers. But standing before this alien king, in this palace that was older than human civilization, he decided to give the truest answer he knew. "Where I come from," Danny said, "you don't leave people behind. It doesn't matter who they are or where they're from. If someone needs help, you help them. That's just how we do things." The king stared at him. "You helped an alien, an enemy, a member of a species that has never shown your people any kindness or respect, and you did this because of an idea." "I guess you could say that, yes." "What idea?" Danny took a breath. "The idea that everyone deserves a chance. The idea that life is worth saving even when it's hard. The idea that being good matters even when nobody is watching." He shrugged with his good shoulder. "Simple ideas, maybe, but they're the ones I was raised with." The court was silent. No one had ever spoken to the king like this. No one had ever stood before him with such plain honesty. King stepped closer to the human. He towered over Danny by almost a full meter. His shadow fell across the human like a dark cloud. Then the king did something that no one expected. He bowed his head. "The Empire owes you a debt that cannot be repaid," he said. "You have returned to me something I thought lost forever. From this day forward, you are a friend to our people. You will have the protection of my house and the gratitude of my throne." Danny shifted uncomfortably. "That's very kind, Your Majesty, but I don't need rewards. I was just doing what anyone should do." Stepped forward. She looked at her father, then at the gathered court. "This is what makes humans different," she said. "This is what we have failed to understand about them. They do not think their kindness is extraordinary. They do not consider their courage unusual. They believe that what they do is normal. It is simply who they are." She turned to face the full court. "For 3 weeks I traveled with this human. I watched him fight enemies twice his size. I watched him endure wounds that would have killed any soldier. I watched him burn his own flesh to stop bleeding, then get up and keep walking. And through all of it, he never complained. He never asked why. He never gave up." Her voice grew stronger. "Imagine a galaxy full of these beings, creatures who simply refuse to stop, who help strangers because it is the right thing to do, who face impossible situations and somehow find a way to win, not because they are stronger or faster or more advanced, but because they do not know how to quit." She looked at her father. "We have ignored humans for centuries. We have dismissed them as primitive and irrelevant, but I have seen what they truly are. They are not weak. They are terrifying." King looked at the human again, really looked at him. He saw the scars, the worn uniform, the tired eyes. He saw a creature that had no reason to save his daughter but had done it anyway. A creature that stood in the heart of an alien empire, surrounded by beings who could kill him in an instant and showed no fear. "You are right, daughter," the king said slowly. "We have been blind." He turned to his advisors. "Send a message to all fleet commanders. They attacked my daughter. They will pay for this, but we will not fight alone." He looked at Danny. "I am sending an ambassador to Earth. I am going to ask for an alliance." The court erupted in shock. An alliance with humans. It was unthinkable. It was unprecedented. But the king raised his hand, and silence returned. "This human taught me something today," he said. "He taught me that strength is not about power. It is about will. It is about choosing to do what is right even when it is hard. Humans have this strength in abundance. I want them fighting beside us, not against us." He looked at Danny one last time. "What do you think, Sergeant Cole? Will your people accept our offer?" Danny smiled. It was a tired smile, but it was genuine. "Your Majesty, humans have been waiting for a chance to prove ourselves to the galaxy. You give us that chance, and I promise you this: we will not let you down." 6 months later, the collective launched a full invasion of space. They expected an easy victory. They expected a broken empire, still mourning its losses. They were wrong. When the fleet arrived, they found the waiting for them. But they were not alone. Beside their warships flew human vessels. Smaller, cruder, less elegant, but crewed by soldiers who did not know how to give up. The battle lasted 3 days. The lost. And across the galaxy, a new truth began to spread. A truth about humans. A truth about creatures who carried pictures of their families into battle. Creatures who burned their own wounds and kept fighting. Creatures who saved strangers and asked for nothing in return. Humans were not primitive. Humans were not weak. Humans were hope. And the galaxy would never forget it.